Our second story for this week, Juan Bobo and the Princess, is another great place to look at ableism. The treatment of ableism and disability in that story, particularly the princess's label of disability and how she's villainized with it, I think embodies the tradition of ableism that we typically see in the fairy tale tradition. A tradition that perhaps Ashapelta has the potential to challenge and undermine, even if it doesn't do it fully. That sort of compare contrast is a great way to think about ableism and ableism in the fairy tale tradition if that's something you're interested in. Another way to think about this is through a post-colonial lens, because just as Ashapelta was written and gathered during this shift in colonial power and this movement to a post-colonial era in Ireland, Juan Bobo and the Princess was collected by American folklorists right after the Spanish-American War, when Puerto Rico became a protectorate of the United States. And you have a History Channel video that you're going to watch that gives that history very briefly, and in the context of that, you're going to be doing a post-colonial reading. But before that, let's map Juan Bobo's journey onto the hero's journey and think about how does it fit or not. So first, we have Juan Bobo in his ordinary world, right, with his mother, and similar to Ashapelt, he has this call to adventure, and he goes, even though his mother resists it, but there is a point where there's a refusal of the call, where after he gets to the city, he becomes afraid, and the horse, helps him turn around and come back and do this. So we can't say it goes through step 3, but I think 3 occurs farther down the line, because we see first a series of sort of tests in the natural world on his journey to the city, where he helps the birds and the horse and the fish, and in doing this has secured the allies that he needs to endure his tests in the city, which is sort of the threshold he crossed. And the city, could it be called a special world? I mean, it's called the City of the Rabid Dog. Sounds like a different kind of world to me. And the things that he describes in this city are horrific. It's the skulls that are piled up from the victims of this test to try to win the princess. It's a city of the dead. It's a city of bones and violence and destruction. And in this city, he has another 3 quests, which the animals, the allies that he has secured through his tests in nature, now come and help him win. And then at last, he does get that boon, which is listed actually up here as sort of, and the princess is a boon. She is an object of a quest. She is not a person in her own individual right, and in fact, she's further demonized and villainized with her disability. And after getting the princess, we see very quickly this sort of final leg of the journey, this return with the elixir. Now, he doesn't have, say, the magical objects that Ashapelta has. But there is something implicit that he's bringing here, which is it talks about how he's sort of elected king. We don't get any sense that the previous king was elected or ruled at all with the consent of the governed, but this new king is ruling in a different way with the consent of the governed. And that consent is sort of renewing and changing the world that he has inherited. So, think about this in connection with the post-colonial context of the story. How is this story more significant when we realize it was told by Puerto Rican storytellers to American folklorists who have come with geologists and government agents from the United States to assess this new land, to look at its natural resources, but also perhaps to understand it, understand the culture and the people. Why would a Puerto Rican storyteller share this story in this way? Why would he include the details? And use he because the storyteller for this particular story is identified as a man. Would the storyteller want to call it the city of the rabid dogs? Why would he describe the pile of bones? Fairy tales include very few descriptions. So when you have those descriptions, they're often symbolic. They often have a deeper meaning. What does the contrast between the harmony of the natural world, which Juan Bobo restores, and the death and destruction in the special world of the city, the political world, mean for a country that's just been handed off from one colonial power to another after a war? Think about those things. You come up with several different meanings, but I think it's very clear that this story is through descriptions of wrongful rule, and then a description of an ideal rightful rule, offering a political message to the folklorists. What is that message? Why does it have meaning? And why perhaps would you tell it through a story rather than just come out and state something about what you believe about how a nation should be governed, how consent of the governed should be gained? What does a story do that perhaps direct speech might miss or might be rejected at? Think about these things, give your response, and for your last activity, you're going to take one of the stories that you chose, that we haven't gone over, and you're going to think about and map the heroic journey for the character in that story, whether it's the brave little tailor or Tatterhood, put in the mermaid tales there as well, and then you're going to respond to a peer. So now that we have done these heroes' journeys and heroines' journeys together, you are going to do that yourself. And remember, both male and female characters can go on either a hero's journey or a heroine's journey. Gender doesn't matter in the choice of journey. In fact, there's a great one about how the Mandalorian, instead of being a hero's tale, is a male heroine's tale. But that's a story for another day. You'll have a great day. Look forward to what you write.